You're welcome to the second segment of the discourse on nationalism and you. This morning, we are going to be taking a look at an issue we can no longer run away from. The issue of democratic faithfulness. Rancorous primaries. Ekiti State in focus. And with me to take a look at this morning is the Publicity Secretary of the APC in Federal Capital Territory here, Abuja, Mr. Usman Adaji. You are welcome to Nationalism and You, and in the characteristic of this program I say, nationalism and you.
It is my responsibility and duty to build this nation.
You are very welcome. Democracy presupposes that the people want to be the de facto owners and participants in the processes of decisions making in their governorate, in their country, in their society. If this elementary requirement is deprived the people, it can no longer be said to be democracy. Recently, we saw the two major political parties, both APC and PDP, conducted primary elections in Ekiti State. Till now, it is generating rancors. Why are we still experiencing all this after 22 years of our democracy? Are we not supposed to be refining and growing?
Well, thank you very much, my dear older brother, Mr. Benenza. First and foremost, what is democracy? Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is not government of the bourgeois, by the bourgeois and for the bourgeois. It is not. It is the government that is owned and expected to be owned by the people. That is democracy. So, talking about the people wanting to own governance, it is their right. It is not a matter of privilege. It's their right. And that is why politics is all participatory. Both the bourgeois, both the downtrodden, both the middle class, all encompassing. It is expected that all hands should be on deck to institute a democratic process. Now, let us look at the issue of rancor. In politics, as it is in this part of the world, it is absolutely impossible. I use the word absolutely impossible for you to run away from rancor after every primaries of this nature. The game players may be comfortable with the process, but their subordinates and supporters may not. May not because there is this saying in a local palace, there is no way a man would die and would not have been accused of having been killed by one thing or the other. In the African context, it is very difficult for you to see somebody died naturally. I lost so person. What killed him? That will be the first question. What happened? It is not natural. So it is, that also has been brought into politics, that it is very impossible for somebody to come out and say, look, that process was transparent, was devoid of any fraud. That is the problem we have, and that is why you are seeing those issues of rancor or somebody protesting here and there. Let us come back home. How does the people own the process? If you look at the primaries conducted by the two political parties, you from the media angles should be able to make very serious comparisons. Which of these political parties has actually given in or given back to the people to own the process? Which of them? Is it the one that conducted their primaries by direct or the one that conducted their primaries by indirect? The two political parties have the option of either choosing the direct primaries, indirect primaries, or what we call consensus. Any of these three processes or methods can be applied in those primaries. But the two political parties chose the one they feel best. Feel best either to have the people carried along in the process or to be able to mastermind the process. Now, I want to take it from the PDP and then come back to the APC. The primaries of the PDP was done by indirect process. The indirect process means that it is only those who were elected through the congresses as party executives that will participate in that primaries. That means those from the local government executives and the state ESCOs, because I'm not even sure the ward ESCOs were part of that congress, because they have about 1,000 and delegates. That means if you put that together, it means it is from the local government to the state, the ESCOs. That means the wards were completely cut off. If the wards are cut off, what that means is that those who actually own the process were cut off ab initio. That is what it means. Now, if you have also a primaries that was conducted by direct primaries, it means that every card-carrying members of the party would be allowed an opportunity to participate. The question here is, were they actually allowed opportunity to participate? In both ends, the answers are yes. Delegates from this end, indirect, yes, they were there. There was a place designated for this process. They went there to cast their votes, and so on, as under the watchful eyes of whoever. Now, the direct primaries, were there direct primaries conducted in every local government? Because it's conducted from the wards to the local government. It's like what we used to call in those days option A4. That is what the process of direct primaries means. It means that from the wards, elections are conducted by members of the party. Those results are transmitted to the local governments. At the local governments, it is collected at those local governments, and then transmitted to the state, where all the results of the local government would have been collected at that center and results announced. That is what that process means. So, and that was what the APC did. Now, if you look at this process, your guess is as good as mine now. Which of these two political parties gave the opportunity to the people to participate in the process? Whether it was free, fair, and credible, or otherwise, the question is, were the people allowed to participate? Now, we chose that option of direct primaries because we want to test run the process. We want to see how the people can own governance, how the people can also be part of the decision on who becomes their candidate. Now, let us come back home. Is it possible for a man who has served as secretary to the government of the state, not to have been close to the people? Having served as secretary to the government, it means that you are close to those people from your constituency. You are also close to the people in the state, because aside the governor, the secretary is like the custodian of the government at every stage. Secretary, even in your local community, when you say this is the secretary of a community meeting, the man is the custodian of all documents and everything that has to do with that particular forum. Now, secretary to the government, the man, Abiodun Oyebanji, has been the secretary to the government in Ekiti State. What that means is that he has been able to root himself to the people. He has been able to bring himself closer to the people. You will agree with me that the man is also a grassroots politician. So that informed the reasons why he got the massive votes he got there, looking at what you saw. For anybody to have complained, like I said initially, it is normal for people to have said the process was not transparent. If they had won, the process would have been transparent. They are our party members, and we have a process of coming up to vent our angers. It is not by going to court. The APC has a process, and that process is, once you are not comfortable with the process of the election, we usually have what we call the appeal committee. The appeal committee is on now, and whoever has a case with that primaries, send his petition to the appeal committee so that they can be looked at.
Mr. Usman Adaji.
Yes.
We are talking about two political parties here.
Yes.
And two primaries.
Yes.
You have delved into the votes,
yes.
the two, and
yes.
things of that nature.
Yes.
One thing that God gives every human being is ability to be reasonable.
Yes.
In your good conscience, would you say that a total vote, according to you, the direct primaries, the total vote expected to be casted were 104,000.
Yes.
104,000. And out of 104,000, the secretary to the government, who is a favored, what do you call it, according to this thing, who is a favored candidate of the governors, polled 103,000. While the rest were scoring 250, 150. One even scored 50. And 7 people at that level. In every good conscience, would you say democracy has taken place?
In every good conscience?
Yes.
You see, I will tell you
because one of them was a senator who polled 90%, 90,000.
You know, in politics,
yes.
In politics, if you are going into an election,
yes,
don't get yourself defeated before the election. If you begin to assume that the process has been hijacked before the election, you would have made your people to lose confidence in that process. That gives room to boycotts. What happened in that election was very simple. Before the election itself, 7 aspirants into that election had already come out in clear court to say, we are not comfortable with the process, a process that had not been put in place. Now, what will you expect of your supporters? To remain there and begin to wait to say, look, okay, since you say this process is not convenient, let us return back home. No, the answer is no. Every political party member would want to be align himself to a particular aspirant. If both of us, myself and you, are going into election, and at a point I begin to complain about the process before the election, those who are my supporters will begin to see that I am jittery going to that election, and they'll begin to see themselves defeated even before the elections. What my supporters will do is to begin to quickly align themselves to you in that process so that they can have relevance, because they're already seeing you taking the day. Hence, I am already experiencing cowardice kind of attitude, because I'm already against that process of election that has not been conducted. That is what happened in the case of Ekiti. If those who contested, including the senators and all whatnot that contested, if they did not kick against the process before the election, their supporters would have confidence in them that the process is still a very clear process, and all of them would have come. What you saw, the secretary pulling, wouldn't have been as much as that, because they would have divided the votes here, and even if he was going to win, he would have won not as much as it is. But I can assure you that every member of a political party will want to align himself with a winner, and that was what you saw happen in that process.
You know, a particular president in the continent of Africa once said,
yes,
how can I lose an election?
Yes,
when I control the army, yes, control the police, yes, control the INEC.
Yes. But that is not the case here, because he is not in government yet. He is not controlling any of this. But you have mentioned.
But he's a favored person of a sitting governor, according to them.
Not proven. Not proven. One of them said the governor had promised them a level playground, and that was not what they saw. The governor didn't conduct that election. Don't forget, it was conducted by another governor that was sent by the national secretariat of the party.
I don't want you to center on APC, because
yes,
the reason why we are discussing this, yes, is because whatever political discontentment,
yes,
generated either through primaries,
yes,
will be carried into the major elections.
Yes.
And if this discontentment is carried into major elections, sometimes it leads to electoral violence.
Yes.
And even after elections and the rest of it, you continue to see a manifestation of the trail of violence, yeah, and that kind of thing. So that is why we are discussing,
yes,
this. For example, in the case of PDP,
yes,
which adopted the indirect primary,
yes,
they have attempted the primary before,
yes,
and they annulled it, and they went back. The man from what do you call him, Akwa Ibom, the governor of Akwa Ibom, Emmanuel Odom, who supervised it for the first time, and the people rebelled and said it was not a and the rest of it, and was brought back for the second time, and they said the process is like this. Ayodele Fayose is the paramount influence, and because of that, he was the one that went to conduct the election that brought in Emmanuel over there. So That is what, and that kind of thing.
Is it a payback? Is that a payback? Are you saying it's a payback?
That is what the people are saying. That is what the people are saying. That is what even the media is also saying. When you take all of this into situation, are we faithfully practicing our democracy?
Let me be very honest here.
Yes.
Let me be very honest. I am not part of those that believe in godfatherism in politics.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable. I've never been comfortable with godfatherism in politics. But like I said initially, it is not possible in this part of the country for anybody, even here, as we seated here, if we are meant to conduct election in your studio here, take it or you leave it. If you are meant to be the umpire or the director of this place, you must have a soft spot for a particular person for very obvious reasons. Maybe because you have been able to deliver certain things in your mind that would have earned him that opportunity of coming up. It is very possible, you know. So in every state of the federation or in every election, whoever is the sitting governor or chairman or whatever definitely would have assessed all those who are coming to aspire for that position and will say, look, if I've been able to carry out governance from this point to that point, I think this man here will be able to take it from where I have stopped to the next level. Nobody will bequeath an office to somebody that you think is not capable and will not be able to carry or to give the people the dividends of democracy. To be fair to all these persons, they must have soft spot for a particular candidate. But that is not to say that you must come out as a leader to say, look, all of you, if you don't go this way, we will not take it, and then begin to fight it bloody and silly. It is not good for our democracy.
What if the soft spot is for just to cover your own track and not for the best interest of a state?
Well, in another aspect, for you to have been assumed a leader, in a state as a former governor, it means the people repose confidence in you. It means the people were comfortable with you when you were in government. It means that the people are still comfortable with you, that you are the leader of that party in that place. And whatever your decision is, they should be comfortable with it. And that is what is happening in the case of Ayo Fayose. Because if Ayo Fayose, up to today, he had led government for the past 4 years. If up to today, Ayo Fayose is still seen as a leader of the People Democratic Party in Ekiti, and is still having influence on who becomes what, it means the people are comfortable with him and also comfortable with what he did before. That is, I'm talking about People Democratic Party. That is what it means. So
generally, as a party person, how would you opine that we should be able to at least reduce to bare minimum the incidences of rancorous primaries that can lead to rancorous elections?
First, we need to start with the electorate themselves, with the people. We must completely remove money politics. Completely. Because if I'm going to contest, if I was part of those that were contesting that same election, and I'm not as rich as those who contested that election, I may not have even put 2 votes, even if I was the best of all the candidates. Because what the electorates are looking for is who amongst these persons can pay more. And it's not good for our democracy. Once we begin to run away from money politics, we begin to cast our votes with our conscience. That is 1. 2, those also who will serve as umpires at all levels, whether it is the direct primaries and people are returning from the wards to the local government and so on, the umpires also will need to understand that whoever gets it at the end of the day is not coming to govern himself, is coming to govern the people, even including you, who is an umpire to that election. So if that process is mad, it is also coming to affect you as an individual. That is the umpires that will, of course, carry out that process and return the results. So if anybody asks you to do otherwise, what you think will not produce the best result, for your own interest and for your integrity's sake, people should be able to say no to certain influence that will bring in bad governance. That is 2. Thirdly, even those also who are in power, why is it that sometimes, sir, when a governor brings in his deputy or brings in an anointed person, once they come in, they begin to fight their godfathers? We've seen it severally.
Very well.
Once the process is not a clear process. It will manifest sometimes later. You can't run away from it. What is bad is bad. You cannot run away from that. It will haunt you later if you have been able to surpass the interest of the people and have brought in somebody who is not of the interest of the people. It will definitely haunt you, who of course is seen as the godfather sometimes later. So for me, it is everybody is involved. The electorates themselves, the umpires, and the godfathers themselves. If all of us are able to run away from influence or influencing the process, I can assure you that this issue of rancor, left, right, and center will be not just be removed, but will be completely eradicated. Completely.
You know, one of the reasons we are discussing this is because when you take a look at West African countries,
yes,
Nigeria is seen as one country that has become robust in democratic practices. We have our challenges, yes. We have our challenges, yes. This democracy have tarried for 22 years now, transiting into the 23rd year, and things of that nature. Have you, in good conscience, seen fundamental improvement that can keep this democracy sustainable? Because many people are saying that most of the security challenges we are witnessing today are as a result of gross democratic abuses. Are we doing deliberately things that can minimize democratic abuses so that we can really have a recourse to peace and sustainable development?
Well, I will not generalize this process. In certain quarters, those who have elected into offices have done well. In some quarters, they have not been able to meet up to our expectations and our yearnings. So, if we said for 22 or 23 years, have we fared so well? The answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that where we were able to get it right, the people were able to deliver. Where we made our mistakes, those mistakes reared their heads. And some of those mistakes are the things we are saying today. Let me come back home. Recently, there was this case of adopting direct primaries across boards as process of electing our candidates. National Assembly, the governors, the medias, the electorates, we are of diverse opinions. Some were for, some were against, some were, in fact, some were completely against it, some were completely in favor of it, and so on. Now the question is it not possible for us to have it there, x-ray them, look at it, look at the process? There's none of it that does not have its positive and negative side. None of the two. In fact, the case of Ekiti is a very clear thing. APC adopted direct, PDP has adopted indirect. How do we fare? Are there no rancor in both areas? There are. Direct was adopted here, yet there are cases. Indirect was adopted here, yet there are cases. So if you look at it, the question here is, talking about conscience, except and until we're able to re-examine our conscience, we may not be able to get the process right, no matter the process we adopted, no matter the method we have been able to adopt. Now, I don't know how this also can be linked to the issue of insecurity. Insecurity, as it stands today, is a thing that has to do with you and I. Before now, we have always said that security is, the issue of security is about all of us. Now, what do we mean by that? In your neighborhood, you may be opportuned to know that your next neighbor there lives in affluence, yet is not working. Yet you don't know what he does for a living. Over the years, once we get such informations, we send these informations directly to the appropriate quarters. But these days, do we do that? What we do is, it is not my business. But someday, it will return back to be your business. Mm-hmm. In those days, upbringing of children is not about you. It's not about you, the father, or you, the parents. It's about everybody in the society. Once the child is going wrong, your neighbor how do I put it now? Your neighbor puts an eye on your child better than even you, who is the direct parents. The reasons are because these children may become monsters tomorrow if they are not properly catered and cared for. And such monsters will not just only return back to the parents, but will be a monster in the society that will affect everybody. Now, those are the things we have completely neglected. We have thrown all that away. And that informs the insecurity we are seeing today. And that insecurity has also gotten into our democratic processes. Two, sometimes some of our politicians, what they do is because these people are vulnerable out there, they don't have anything to do, their parents don't bother about them, the society don't bother about them. Our politicians take advantage of these vulnerable people and then begin to buy cutlasses, machetes, and all whatnot, give them and say, go and do ABC. Once that process, the election is come and gone, these people now begin to use some of these arms that have been given to them to hunt even they themselves. Even those who gave them these arms, they begin to use it to hunt them. This is what has led to this issue of insecurity we are seeing today. Except and until we return back to the drawing board and begin to trace where we got it wrong. Start from wherever we think we have gotten it wrong. That is purely for those who are security experts. It's not for me to say. We know where we got it wrong and we know what to do to get it right. We must be sincere to ourselves. We are not in any way sincere to ourselves. Look at the issue of Ekiti. Let me come back to PDP. Oni was the governor in Ekiti State. Oni was in PDP. He participated in the primaries when Ayofayoshi was there. When he was not comfortable with the process, he left and came back to APC. There was congresses in PDP. After some time, he returned back in 2019 or so to PDP and said, look, he wants to contest for the governorship of the state, probably to continue to complete his second term. Now, that primaries that was conducted, if only, a lot of persons have said, if Oni had participated in the congresses, there was no way Oni wouldn't have won that election. That was what some quarters are saying. But I say no to that, because Oni didn't participate in that congress, but yet he pulled as much vote as he pulled. Those who participated in that congress that didn't move from the party to another party that remained, what was their votes in that primaries? Oni came second after the purportedly anointed candidates of Ayofayoshi. Oni came second, but he never participated in the process that brought in those delegates or the executives that voted in that primaries. So what are we saying? The issue of anointed candidate, either in APC or in PDP, is just our personal imagination. It is the people, what the people want, to a very large extent, is to participate in the process. Who have given them opportunity to participate in the process? I give you an instance. If in my local government, we wanted a primaries to be done, and then we are doing direct primaries, and we have 500 delegates to that primaries, or card carrying members, the people are there, they voted. If the results are going to be transmitted from my local government was not what was carried out on the ground, the people will protest there and then. That result will not leave that place, because all the aspirants have their delegates, agents in the local governments, in the wards. Their agents are there. Is it the agents that are complaining, or it is the principals that are complaining? The agents ought to complain from the polling units, from the wards, and the local government. Once we have those complaints, it means that what was expected to be done was not done right. But those processes were allowed to be followed up to the collation center. Results collected. And then the principal has said those results were marked with frauds and violence. No, that is not good enough.
Many people have said that it is because of these various lacunas and shortcomings in our democratic practices. For example, even parties find it difficult to conduct their own internal party leadership election. For example, your own party, APC, has been under a committee leadership, and the committee leadership is almost running a lifespan of an elected executive.
That is not true.
What
they are running is enshrined as in line with the guideline, with the constitution of the party. So we have not.
It seems to be taking too much long before this thing.
If the constitution allows it, why not? If they have negated the constitution, if they have gone against the constitution, then it would have been.
But the preference of the people would have been a substantive executive.
Okay, let me tell you. When the then Adams Oshomole government was in place,
yes,
we had some few issues. It is no news how Oshomole was removed from the office. You are aware of the news. Now, a lot of people were not comfortable with what happened at that time. And the party needed to bring everybody back on board. The party needed to resolve all that needed to be resolved. And it is not a day thing. If you are bringing in a caretaker committee to resolve issues, we're talking about resolving issues across the country. It takes time. And in the party's wisdom, they wanted the Bono-led caretaker committee to ensure that all the weary factions are brought back, issues are resolved as much as we can, then we go into Congress.
Couldn't 1 year have done that? But we are talking about 18 years to 19 years.
About 18 years or months?
I mean 18 months.
No, you see, it is easier said than done. For you here, it's easy for you to say 5 days, 1 month is enough to resolve this. But it is the man that wears the shoes that know where it hurts. Sometimes, look at it. Let us take like a court case.
I am taking on you because your party have to provide the leadership.
And that is why
because you are the one leading the nation now.
Yes, no. The party is leading the nation by the president. The president has taken leadership. The party programs is party programs. Whether you are in government or not, party programs does not. There's no difference between those in government and those outside the government because you are running the party. The president, for instance, now is the leader of the nation, but it comes from a political party. Exactly. So you cannot say because APC is leading must take the lead across board. No, that's not the point. But let me leave that. What I'm trying to let you understand here is that even legal tussles, sometimes you expect a case to linger for just maybe to have a lifespan of 2 months. It could linger for 2 years. It depends on the nature of the case. It depends on what it is. Not to talk about people who need to resolve certain persons. People who very good. Thank God that you have now fixed. Thank God that you have now fixed February 26th for your national convention, and we pray that it comes and goes, and the rest of it. Very well. Let us now take a look at the electoral bill. Yes.
It went to the president. The president declined assent. It went back to National Assembly. They have now worked, and they said, okay, we have decided to make it this way. No more direct primaries as formerly, but now direct primary, indirect primary, and consensus. But with a clause that the consensus candidate party must obtain the withdrawal and endorsement letter, written letter from the cleared aspirants before you arrive at your consensus and things of that nature. This has, and wherever they cannot obtain such a letter, that the political party must go for direct or indirect as a matter of choice. But from the look of things, this is also generating another contention that the governors, many governors are feeling uncomfortable with it and the rest of it. Is it about the governor or about the people?
Attitude. We need to check our attitude. We need to also check our approach. Whichever side of the device you are, you have a defense to it. Like I said earlier, the president declaring assent to that bill, that is the president of the nation. You don't just throw a bill at the president and you expect him to assent to that bill. They need to cross the T's and dot the I. When you discover that if you assent to this bill, the aftermath of it may not be too good for the country, of course you will decline assent and return it back for them to also look at certain clauses. And that is exactly what the president has done. He didn't say completely, no, this is not good, let's throw it away. He said, no, return it back and then look at ABC and put it in proper perspective and then return it. That is just what happened in that case, and which is normal in every democratic setup. Now, the issue of the governors and the National Assembly and other members. For me, it is not even always easy in every democratic setup for you to have a consensus candidate, except, with due respect to all political parties, except if you have a mushroom party that is shopping for a candidate. In such situation, you go and beg for a candidate that have lost the election somewhere and say, please come and contest under our platform. In such situation, you can have a consensus candidate. Otherwise, any political party that has produced 1, 2, 3 governors or what do you call it, House of Assembly members or council chairman, definitely there might be few persons who will be interested in contesting for a particular position. In such situation, the only major two method that could be possible is either a direct or indirect, and that is the cases that have been tested in Ekiti, as we have seen going down. I would have expected that starting this program, your studio or you as an anchor person would have given the APC a thumbs up for having adopted the direct primaries in Ekiti, because we wanted the people to be part of the process. Ordinarily, we have our executives in place in Ekiti. They could possibly have adopted an indirect primaries if the governor was interested in anointing anybody.
You yourself, you said direct primary, there was rancors. Yes. Indirect primary, there was rancors. And me, I cannot contend with the issue of a single citizens.
Yes.
You see, I witnessed those elections in Arab country where oligarchy are ruling. Then when they call for an election, they will have mushroom contenders. Then the leader whom they have project and the rest of it will score 99.5% and then definitely any reasonable person knew that there is no election. So if there are 104 votes to be contested and you have political juggernauts with big names in the state and the rest of it.
I just gave you exactly what happened.
So that is why I cannot thumb up. I want to see the rancors away.
I would want to advise that in every political setup, don't conclude before the conclusion. Don't conclude before such elections are concluded. When you are going into an election and you have prepared yourself, you have spent months campaigning and preparing for election, you don't just few days to the election begin to complain against a city government that they have hijacked the process. Your supporters will lose confidence in you. That is exactly what
your advice is that they should go in, contest and come back and
the election, and then see how the elections will fare.
Because when you contested, you have basis to contest. Contest whatever result comes out. Okay.
And not pulling out somewhere. That is act of cowardice. That is what it means. You don't do that. You will make your people lose.
Because whether you pull out or not, election will proceed anyway.
It will proceed. It's just like the INEC rules that says that if you have an agent to an election and then there's an election, after the election, whether the agents are sent to the results or not, it does not render invalid. So if you're an agent, put your eyes on that ball.
So Mr. Usman Adaji, if you will advise our country, having been a participant in this democratic process that have lasted about 22 years, going into 23 years, if you have to advise, what changes will you want to, what will you advise that can make our democracy to embrace peace and carry the people along?
First and foremost,
we are rounding up.
First and foremost, my advice is this: let us have ideology, political ideology. I keep talking about these political ideologies. If you are a Democrat, remain a Democrat. If you are a progressive, remain a progressive. If you are a conservative, remain a conservative. You cannot be a progressive today and then become a conservative tomorrow. It does not follow. So people should be able to stick to their political party, whether they are in government or not. Remain in your party, ensure that your party is properly built up. That is one. Two, INEC should be able to be completely independent of whatever happens. Because a lot of persons are accusing INEC left, right, and center. If INEC as an umpire of the process is transparent and remain transparent, I am sure that even if the president, I said even if, this is not the case here, let us assume without considering that the president said, look, go and return this person. As a body that is an umpire and that is expected to be completely independent of everybody, you go back and do what is expected. Once that is done, I'm sure that democracy will suffice in Nigeria. Until then, and lastly, I also want us to check our attitude, our approach. It is not about you. If you don't have what it takes to be in government, don't even be part of the process. Stay at home. A lot of persons who comes out to contest for offices does not even have what it takes to run for those offices. Simply because they have some money to throw around, they want to run for offices that they don't have the capacity.
Thank you very much. We have been talking with Mr. Usman Adaji on the issue of rancorous election, Ekiti State being in focus. The essence of all of this is to ensure that we keep on improving on our democratic practices in such a manner that carry everybody along and ensure that we minimize rancors, political discontentment, and bottle up anger that can snowball into electoral violence and subsequent violence trailing a nation. If we do this, we will be able to improve on our democracy, more so because in the continent of Africa, whatever happens to Nigeria happens to Africa. This is how we will be drawing the curtain on the nationalism and you today, waiting and keeping watch till we meet with you once again next week, Thursday. I remain Ebenezer Oyeta King, your host, and continue to keep faith with ITV, independent television, certainly the best. And we have so much programs still coming up for you. Thank you.